Welcome to Catholic Education Matters, the podcast that celebrates the beauty of Catholic education. Join us as we share the stories of those making a lasting impact on Catholic education. Let's begin. Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm happy to have Scott Roy. Scott is the acting president of Catholic Pacific College at Trinity Western University in Langley, British Columbia.
Very happy to be here.
Scott, and we are happy that you're here. Looking forward to some conversation and getting to know a little bit more about you. Mm-hmm. Also, Catholic Pacific College, where my daughter goes to school. And,
very happy to have her there too. Yeah. Looking forward to talking about it.
Yes, exactly. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Okay. I've had the joy of having coffee with you and talking a little bit about CPC and what the long-term plans were. But tell us a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, so I grew up in Port Coquitlam. So I'm a local Lower Mainland boy here, and I married a woman I went to school with, Colleen Roy, and we were both 19. We started dating. We got married when we were 23, and we now have 6 beautiful children.
Love it.
And we live in Chilliwack. And my wife, you may recognize her name, Colleen Roy. She used to write for the BC Catholic. Mm-hmm. And I've loved her articles. So many people have loved her articles. And sadly, in the middle of October, she stopped writing for them. But I'm sure at some point in time, it'll come out again. She's very creative, very thoughtful person. So I'm looking forward to the next edition of what she writes. Yep. Having said that, we met in high school and started dating around the age of 19. I actually grew up Protestant, so I wasn't Catholic, and I was in Bible college at the time and studying to become a pastor. Mm-hmm. And Colleen and I had met each other in high school, but then outside of high school is when we started hanging out and get to know her. And man, I tell you, it was like, she was a wonderful, beautiful girl, but there's one thing about her that was problematic, and that was that she was Catholic. And so as I got to know her, and of course, me wanting to be a pastor, we talk in faith. I wanted her to come into my church, and I invite her to church all the time. But as she was articulating her faith more and more, I started not only to fall in love with her, but fall in love with the Catholic Church. Wow. And it was meeting so many different needs in my life that I was discovering as I was, diving into the scripture and into theology, and that there were a number of questions that I had. And the last place I thought I was going to find them was in the Catholic Church. But lo and behold, I fell in love with the church, and I came into the Catholic Church in, I believe it was 99, 2000. So I'm still quite a young Catholic from that time on. And what that did for me was it sort of renovated my life in the sense that I was no longer going to be a pastor. Yeah. And so I had to figure things out. My wife and I were married young. We were 23 years old when we got married. And so I had to figure out where I fit in the Catholic Church, because I had, previously I felt like I had this full-time calling to ministry, and I didn't quite know what that looked like in a Catholic context. So I actually went into trades. I'm a ticketed fire sprinkler fitter, and I did that for close to a decade with a gentleman who had an outfit that was in my parish at the time. Yep. And, as I was doing that, which is great work, there's, great dignity in the work, but I still personally just felt like there was something that I was being called to. And I met Brett Powell from Catholic Christian Outreach, and he would talk to us from time to time about joining staff and about this beautiful movement that they had. My wife and I participated in a lot of the events that they were putting on. And around 2008, I felt that is what God is leading me to do. So I put aside the tools, and I went on campus to be a missionary at Simon Fraser University. I spent about 4 years there working with the young adults there, and I had a lot of great experiences, a lot of formative experiences during that time. But again, I felt that nudge that there was something still that I was missing, and that was to finish off my degree, which I had left when I became Catholic. And so I did an undergrad in theology through a Catholic institution, and then I did a master's through Christendom University in Virginia, master's in theology. And that's what led me to a strong desire to work locally here at Catholic Pacific College. And of course, previously it was Redeemer Pacific. In 2015, it changed its name. So there's a lot of people that are familiar with Redeemer Pacific College and now are getting acquainted with it as Catholic Pacific College. And it's an affiliate institution with Trinity Western University.
Right.
And that's how I was, introduced to it. I started off, my heart was to teach. I didn't really ever expect to be in the administration for the college, but there weren't any positions available apart from admissions counselor. So that was my introduction to the college. Around 2017 is when I started with them.
Wow.
Yeah.
As an administration counselor.
Yeah, an admissions counselor, so a recruiter, essentially,
Recruiter
for the college.
Great.
And it being so small, you just start to help out here and you help out there and you take on more tasks.
Yes.
And so that was my introduction to Catholic Pacific College.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, and it is a small school. You said that it's tiny in comparison to Trinity Western.
Yes.
So when kids go to school there, they take some classes at CPC, and then because it's basically on the campus of Trinity Western, they take the rest of the classes over there.
That's right. All of our students are Trinity Western students.
Yep.
And Trinity Western being a liberal arts university, which means that they require, no matter which discipline their students are in, so that they don't become sort of narrowly focused in their field and have that breadth of knowledge, they require all of their students to take a liberal arts core.
Okay.
And so what Catholic Pacific did was proposed that Catholic students, and really anybody who admires or wants to take the Catholic tradition or understand the Catholic tradition, can take essentially a Catholic core. We call it the Catholic formation track. And that's kind of more so a technical term because there's certain implications within the Ministry of Education, and so we couldn't really call it a Catholic core, but that's essentially what it is. So students who are approaching their degree, no matter if they're in science, business, whichever it is, they then get this core formation of around 15 or 16 courses that they can do most of that with our college, and they get a really strong, robust education in the Catholic faith.
Right. Yeah, that's. I'm glad I'm learning about this right now too. My daughter's going to school there, and it's like, oh, okay. Now I didn't know that. So it is really small right now, as we already talked about. You have a vision. You'd like to see that expand.
Absolutely.
And so would I. I think that would be a great thing. Having. Being part of championing a new Catholic high school, which is relatively in the area. It's in the Fraser Valley as well, so we're connected. We're now a feeder school.
Absolutely, I was
to
just going to say
CPC.
that. Yes.
So, which is
very blessed,
which
to
is
have
really
you guys as a
exciting.
feeder.
Yeah. So I hope to see it grow as well.
Yeah.
What are the plans? What are the
Sure.
what are the hopes? What are the dreams right now to expand the school? Because right now the school. It's like it's old school in a little farmhouse,
lovingly called the
very
farmhouse.
charming.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and so just to give perspective, we have about 3 full-time professors there, a couple sessional professors, and around 3-ish administrative staff. So very small, and we all end up taking part in everything that goes on in the heart of the college. There's we just had about 22 students join us, so in their first year, and it brings our total of students that we deal with, because this is actually, because the main school is Trinity Western, it is actually kind of a difficult thing to track. But we have around 60 to 70 students that we work with that come to Mass on campus, that take part in the student events that are run, maybe volunteer at the college, and also maybe take some elective courses with the college on top of the students who are in their second and third and fourth year of taking this formation track. So that it makes up for a decent sizable student body. What we want to do is, and the vision, whether it's 10 to 15 years from now, of course we always want things sooner than that, but is to grow that to 50 to 90 students coming in each year. And that puts us around anywhere between 250 to 350 students at any time. Well, you can't fit those all into a farmhouse. And this farmhouse is it's in need of repair and that constantly. So the dream here is obviously to build a bigger school, one that accommodates. And the professor that I work with there, he's the academic dean at the college, and we always talk about this. We don't want to build something that that's just huge and sort of empty. Most of the time, kind of want to be bursting at the seams. And the beautiful thing is that we're seeing some real growth in the college, and we are getting to that point where I think we will be bursting at the seams. And so we want to get a larger campus for the school, but I think there's other things that the college and the society and that can really further, and that's dreams about affecting other areas of education. One area that is really dear to my heart, and because of my experience in the trades, is to maybe try and build a trade school where we can do some faith formation. I mean, there is a great need in all areas of the trades for guys who will show up to work, who believe in the dignity of work, and who have a goal to be working for, to see their work as meaningful and deep and meaningful, and to do that in faith. I mean, that's such a great need, I think, in our society today. And there's a great need for trades, period. And I don't, that's something that I think has been neglected, is seeing, okay, well, there's these guys in trades, but they also need that faith formation and being able to see their greater purpose in God's plan for their lives. There are in the States, there are multiple institutions like that starting out. In Steubenville, there's the St. Joseph the Worker Institution. So I think it's something that's on people's minds, and I think it's a direction that we're going for. And so it's been a dream. Talk to a few people about this to maybe make this happen in our area.
We have in our school, it's not going to be finished right now. We're building the entire campus, but those are going to be some parts of the building that aren't finished. And one of them is call it our trade school, call it industrial design. And we want to bring that back into education. We want to bring that back into high school. And you're right. I mean, it's a dying breed. It's funny. Kids were almost shunned.
Yes.
To stay away from trades, do computer not that there's anything wrong with that, or but when it came to working with your hands and things like that, it was like something that you don't want to do that. That's for the other people. Anecdotally, I think that a number of occasions, because we have in our community events, and that we have people from outside of the college, people who aren't necessarily students or even students of Trinity Western, that come out, and you'll go up and just trying to get to know some of the students there and ask them, what do you do? Like what are you studying? And I mean, that's just sort of a common thing that you ask, when you're in a university event, is what are you studying? And you get kind of almost like a sheepish sort of response. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean, he's conscious about the fact that he's in trades as opposed to, being in a university, because there seems to be that, element of pride in that in a university education, where, like you said, that you feel almost that burden, that you went the lower route or something like that. And I always tell them, I say, awesome. I'm a tradesman myself. I'm a ticketed pipe fitter, so we need trades.
And the shock, there's a little bit of a shock that goes, oh really, okay, and we get to talking, and it is great, and it's dignified, and it's important.
A lot of parents, where I've been touring them through the new campus while it's under construction. You've been there.
Yes.
And
awesome place.
The trades room, I'll stop and talk to them about that, and so many of them just light up when they're like, oh, I'm so glad to hear that, and kids today, half of them don't even know how to change a light bulb, or what does a light switch actually do? Like, how does that work? How does the plumbing in our house work? How does the heat work?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, something happened. I better call somebody. Heat's not working. Got to call somebody. This won't turn on. I got to call somebody. Where so much of it can be done yourself. Not that we all have to be do-it-yourselfers, but the fact that we don't even know the basics. How many kids don't even know how to change a tire in a car? Like, I got a flat. What does that even mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Check the air pressure. There's a lot of that out there. And but the trades, we need tradespeople.
Yeah.
We're literally importing tradespeople from other countries because we don't have enough, and they're good paying jobs. Yeah. And we need leaders in the trades as well. So
and I think something that you were saying there, just that ability to do things, to be able to see how things work, on a basic level, and that speaks to, I think, something that's important in education as a whole. And there's a guy who wrote a foreword for a book that I love. The book is called The Risk of Education, and it's by Father Luigi Giussani. He is a priest and theologian.
I love the title.
Yeah, and there's a great truth in there too. It is risky business, especially if you do it right, and as education is supposed to be done. And just apart from the whole book being a great book, and I was going to say Father Luigi is the founder of Communion and Liberation, a Catholic international movement. So it's very, he's a renowned personality, priest and theologian, and he had a lot of experience teaching high school in his former years in that. And so there's a lot of experience and wisdom in this book. But the guy who did the foreword to the book, he says he loves this book. The only thing rather than critiquing it or anything, he said, I wish I had written it. But he says he views education as moral training, moral formation. That's kind of the lens through which he sees it. And I think that's great. And he always brings about the idea of virtue and the idea that we don't have a strong moral compass in our society, in our world today. But he says the thing about virtue is you can't separate what you come to know from how you came to know it. And I think that's an important lesson for our day in this. I actually would call it virtuous education. And I mean all of education as a whole, but specifically even a Catholic education is a virtuous education in the sense that virtue is about habituating your life, habituating yourself to do the good, not just to do it, but to love it and become readily available to do it. C.S. Lewis talked about virtue in the sense of he gives the example of a tennis player who trains and trains, to play tennis, and their muscle memory and everything that they do forms to this game, this act of perfecting their tennis playing in that. Like if I went out and played you a game of tennis, I might win, but I would never in my life call myself a tennis player, because the virtue of that is not in me. My body, my whole being is not habituated towards that.
Right.
And unfortunately, what happens in our day is knowledge, we get facts, we have these things, but our minds and our hearts and our whole lives are not formed, they're not habituated to learning that and to really experiencing that in their lives. And that is something that Luigi Giussani, and why it's a risk. You're investing your entire being in this education, and that's both the learner and the educator. So it's a very holistic, a very, formative education, something very different from, if you look at our education system today, I don't know that we could say that, right?
No. Well, so here's a question: how well do you think CPC and Trinity Western does in that realm? Like, is it nailing it? Is
I'm
it
there
hitting
for
it
a
out of the
reason.
park?
I love it. I love this place. Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's always challenges, and there's challenges to being with an evangelical university. Yep. So we have different faith traditions. I think there's a positive aspect to that, and there's a great benefit to us in that our students who are there are near and rubbing up against and sharpening their swords and all those kinds of metaphors, getting to know a faith that's similar, but there are some very strong distinctions between the two. And so I think it's a great benefit to them. They're asked hard questions, and they're able to give good, full answers, and they are affected by them, and they get to affect the other students in the university. So I would say with that standard, Trinity's a Christian university. And so they're bringing to the table an incarnation. They're bringing to the table Christ incarnated and infused into all their teachings. And I think that I've heard that from various disciplines, from science to even computer programming in that. Their courses in there. I know their staff are living the faith. I know many of their staff, especially in the admissions realm where I'm a little bit more acquainted. And these are people who are following Christ and living that out. And that is an important aspect. When students are learning something in the classroom, it can't just be in the classroom. Yeah. You can't just see it taught here and then something totally different lived out. Because we're in our very beings, intellectual beings, we're relational beings, and we're theological beings created by God. And God has a purpose and a plan for our lives. And so we can't divide ourselves. As an intellectual being, we need to be seeking truth. And we can't just look at it in the classroom and then see it lived completely different outside of the classroom. It's jarring. And because it's part of who we are, we will always be taught. We will always be educated. And it really matters how you're educated and what is coming in.
Yeah.
So, it's like kids, they can spot a phony. If you go to church only on Sundays and the rest of your life revolves around something else, maybe the rest of your life revolves around work or around sports or something like that, kids see that.
Yeah.
And you don't have to say it.
Yeah.
But you can try and tell them, this is very important that we go to Mass on Sundays.
Yeah.
And then you forget about it the rest of the week. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
They will learn. And because we are that in our very being, we're always learning things. So that's something that Father Gisani really presses, is that it needs to be a lived experience, that you can't just be learning facts, but you have to be following. And so, shifting over to CPC and how do we, I don't know how many institutions that you can work for, and maybe you can say it for yourself, but I know that everybody on our staff and our faculty is seeking to follow Christ and to live the way of the cross. And I can't speak, I believe I could speak for all of my staff and faculty.
Yep.
All of the students there, every student that I know there is following their faith. I see so many students. My family goes to adoration at St. James every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Okay, not every, but most we try to go to every. And I always see CPC students there.
Oh, wow.
So here's a group of students who have given up a Thursday night to go and just be with our Lord.
Wow.
Outside of Sunday Mass and that kind of thing. So this is something that I think is indicative. You will know the tree by its fruit. And so you have this institution that is not just saying something in the classroom, but you see the president of the college at adoration. You get invited over to Professor Henderson's house for dinner.
Yeah.
You get to see a Catholic family living out that faith in that. So, I really believe that we're not perfect, obviously. But I really love what happens at the college, and we really want to see more of that. We want to integrate more of that into the education of the students. And I'll just say one more thing before I let you have it. At the heart of our college, physically right now, in this small little house, we have a little chapel, and there's 24/7 adoration there, so students can go in there, staff can go in there and pray, and every day, 11 o'clock, Monday through Thursday, we have Holy Mass there, and students come and just have that opportunity to physically see integrated into their day the sacramental world, sort of penetrating in and seeing the importance of that physically in the building, but also in the day and in the week lived. So we have this, and then of course once they move outside of the academics in the classroom, they have this Catholic community, not just of faculty and staff, but other Catholics who are there supporting them and having the same kind of experience that they're and challenges that they're having.
Yeah, that's awesome. And did you say every day there's Mass?
Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday.
Friday, although Trinity Western's a little quiet on Friday, they have a few classes, but they don't have their typical schedule. It's like Monday and Wednesday classes and Tuesday and Thursday classes. So we capitalize on that during chapel time.
So, and when I did visit there, I saw Father Donnelly was there to say Mass.
Yes.
Is it him always, or is it?
Okay, so Father Donnelly is and he's pastor of St. Strokeman, so he's got a bigger responsibility outside of that, but he loves the college. He's been a great supporter of the college since he was at St. Joseph's in Langley. And he says Mass from Monday to Wednesday. And on Thursday, we have Father Nixon come over from the local St. Nicholas Parish. But Father Donnelly is the chaplain.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So the significant, you touched on that already in terms of the core that you've got working there. You said they all practice and live their faith.
Yes.
That's important. That's hugely important.
Absolutely. Can you imagine going to the school, being taught all the these things about being Christ, from the core of your being at your baptism, and how this influences the way you view the world and everything that you see in the world.
Yeah.
And then the people that are there don't even follow that. how jarring that is to the system. And
is.
whether you yourself follow that road or not, you certainly have that inclination to. You certainly have that witness, that experience that's going, well, they seem like a decent person, and all that kind of thing. So I think it's dangerous, is what it amounts to the spiritual life, to see this dichotomy within a person. Yeah. And I'm not suggesting that everybody is perfect. I'll start with myself. Certainly not saints.
No, but there are some boxes that need to be checked, though. And in order to be convincing, you need to be convinced yourself.
That's right.
And
I was just to steal from your interview with Archbishop Miller. You can't sell what you haven't bought.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And that's the way it is.
No, it's true. It's true. It's something I had learned that in Sales 101 too. And if you're going to sell a product, you should really own that product.
That's right.
Because if you don't, you're going to have a heck of a time pitching it, So, and it's the same thing when you're getting feedback from a customer student saying, so how, and the student was to say, and I'm not an educator, but the student was to say, well, how do you do that in your family? And it's like, well, we don't do that. But,
that's right.
It's like, well, what the heck are you pitching me on here? So, and yes, we all have challenges. We're all struggling to stay on the right road. We're all searching.
Yes.
It's just in this life journey, all trying to figure this out. But it's really.
But you're given grace, and you have to walk with it. You have to follow that grace.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Those are such true words.
Yeah.
My goodness. Now, school's not free. It's a private school. It's a private university.
It is.
Probably one of the most expensive in the Lower Mainland, I would think.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I haven't done a whole lot of comparison in the Lower Mainland, but I mean, I think that
it's
easily
probably safe to say
most of our institutions are government subsidized. So you get your $6,000 or $7,000 tuition at probably most of the universities here.
Yeah.
And which is $22,000 at Trinity Western.
Right.
One, I'll say it's worth the investment.
Yes.
Two, I would say Trinity Western is amazing with their financial aid. So they really believe in what they do, and they do a whole lot of fundraising to be able to lower that ceiling and bring it down to a manageable rate. So that's I just want to say that it's highest compliments to their ability to financial aid with the students, and especially you work hard, you can do it. And then of course there's some students that will go the route of BC student aid and that kind of thing to bring that down even lower. A lot of our students work during the summers and that to afford, and they all can do it. They all are able to do it. We don't just have elite rich people that that go to the university, which is kind of the perception that people have, is that it's only rich people can afford to go there, right?
We're living that right now. At the SGP2.
Yes.
It's tough.
And I love that. I love that about SJP2. And from what I understand, that you want to have it so that anybody that desires to have that Catholic education is able to do it. And I have the same heart for our college. We're not quite there yet. I can't make that promise yet, but that is definitely what some of our fundraising goals are meant to do, is to provide bursaries and scholarships and that kind of thing, so that we don't ever have to say, we've had to say to a few students who had us as their number one, or I shouldn't say we've had to say to them, they've had to say to us, the Trinity CPC is their number one choice, but they just can't afford to do it. According to what their plans are. Because some people don't want to take on the student aid and that kind of thing, which is fair enough. But I want to be able to say to them, come and be well formed. The degree at Trinity Western is accredited, and it's good across North America. This is not just an elite independent university where it doesn't really work anywhere else. It's their nursing programs, highly respected. Their education programs, highly respected. I could think of nothing better. What I'd love to be able to do is to work it so that a number of our Catholic teachers come through. I know that our principals in Vancouver love to have teachers who have come from Trinity Western and Catholic Pacific College. They're just so well formed, and honestly, you could have any one of those teachers go in there and do an amazing job teaching religion in their schools. So, and I'd love to just see more and more of that happen.
Well, I've had some of my nephews and a niece go through there.
Right.
And now my daughter going through there. And of course,
it's a good track record.
My sister-in-law, my brother's wife, she worked there for many years as well.
Yes.
So far, they're all good kids that came out of
They
there.
certainly are. I would go as far as to say those are amazing kids. You've
Yeah.
got an amazing family, a blessing on the college itself. You know, your families have been. And I mean, two of my boys are going through, or have been through the college and are going through the college right now. So I trust them with my own children.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's good. Well, that's buying what you're selling. That's buying
right.
what you're selling, right?
That's
exactly. Right. So that's fantastic. Well, so you have big aspirations to try and get a new facility built there, and I'm encouraging you as well because having just lived.
Farmhouse is charming, but that only goes so far.
Well,
you want to grow that.
Well, it's needed. It's definitely needed. I'm seeing firsthand, have lived firsthand, what Catholic education does. In developing the whole person. Of course, St. John Paul II, when he was Pope John Paul, he was a massive advocate for Catholic education, and he promoted that. Hence the name of our school,
absolutely,
as well. And I can't take credit for that. That was Archbishop Miller that picked. So, and he chose wisely. But with a new facility. I think that's only going to, it's one of those things. You need money to build the facility.
Yes.
You need students that want to go. And it's sort of the build it and they will come.
There's always a little bit of that in there.
Yeah.
I say we do the bursting at the seams sort of approach. But there is always going to be a little bit of if you build it, because you're not going to ever just build to what you have. You're not going to put up a new structure because we can't fit 40 students in our school currently. I'm not going to build a place for 40 students. I'm going to build a place that can accommodate
whatever
more. That's right. And of course, that's for our college. I would say that's one of the two obstacles that we have. And I thank you for bringing us on this podcast, because it'll help with one of them, which is awareness. Just not a lot of people know about this great opportunity that our archdiocese has here in the Valley. And the second thing is funding. We want to find people who believe in what we're doing and be able to create that community of patronage that is going to help us achieve this, and people who know what to do, to invest money to be able to build this vision and be on board with this vision.
For sure. And that's not to take away from what it is right now, because what it is right now, I mean, SJP2 is currently in a small little elementary school built in the 60s, I think it was.
Right.
And it's now being utilized as a small high school.
Right.
So it's
humble beginnings.
Yes, very humble beginnings. Charming may be a word to describe it.
I like that word. It makes me feel good. Yeah.
It's not, and it's not something that attracted all families. Like there were some families that were just like, I just can't see my kid going to high school here. We had challenges with people saying, well, I want them to go to a real high school. And it's like, well, what is that? What does that mean? What is a real high school? I mean, I went to high school. There was about 600 students at St. Thomas More when I went there. I think there's a little bit more than that now. But is that a real high school, or is a real high school 2,000 students, or some of the schools that are 4,000 students? What's the definition of real high school?
And I think we're looking at, when we're asking that question or trying to make that statement, I want my child to go to a real high school, we're talking about almost two different things. Like what makes that real, that true education, that true high school, right? So, and there are some things that I would prefer, a humble backdrop to the magnificent education that they're getting, as opposed to a magnificent backdrop and a very humble education, right? So,
and that's something that,
or I wouldn't even call it humble,
our school's very aware of right now, because we're coming from these humble beginnings. We're going to be going to this big state-of-the-art campus. And we've got an incredible culture right now, and we want to keep that culture. And we're going to have this massive influx of new kids bringing new families, new ideas, new influences, and that's something we want to be the influencer. And we don't want to be a
Absolutely.
Catholic school in name. We want to be a Catholic school in practice.
There's too many of those.
Yes, exactly. So,
and one thing that I learned, if I can interject, just with my time with Catholic Christian Outreach, and they were big on talking about, and obviously they got these from, I think, the writings of the popes and that, on movements and ministries. And I would certainly classify any school that is proud of the gospel and looking to impart that into the lives of their students, definitely a ministry. I mean, that's just there's just no two ways about that. But they need to hold fast to the original charisms of the founding
Right.
people. And that tends to, when people depart from that, you get a very different animal, a very different creature from what you started out with, because
Yeah.
you're always chasing the times. You're always chasing something other than that original conviction, which made what you were doing worth doing. And I think that's important, no matter whether you're that small nucleus of, of the community, and then bringing others into, is to hold fast to those original charisms. Don't lose sight of what was driving you to do this in the first place, right?
Yes.
And hand that on to the people that come on after. That was another thing that CCO learned, was that a movement will die out if you don't raise up the next generation of leaders, if you don't find the people who are going to share that vision that you have, know the sort of the foundings of the school. Then they always taught sort of the original story of how CCO got started to every new person that was coming in, so that they could carry on that torch, that vision. And even for Catholic Pacific College, one of the best, like I started in 2017, the school is already, we're going into our 25th year, which means I've missed.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've missed like 17, 18 years of history. And one of the things that we did was bring in one of the founders of the college to tell us the story. And we wanted to hear from him why we started and all that kind of thing. And we've been trying to hold fast to that, forming Catholic students that are attending Trinity Western University, and not lose sight of that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so important. So important. I'm looking forward to, actually, I'm very hopeful that the some of our graduates already will be coming back and teaching at SJP2. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Let's pray.
hopefully, maybe even my daughter. You never know. She's going in there for psychology. She
Right.
loves the idea of counseling and things like that. You never know. She may end up coming back for that.
Absolutely.
So-
and she'll be well equipped from everything that I know. So.
In the right way for what we want out of our school. To go and get that Christian base, all those fundamentals in there. To be able to bring them back and to guide kids. That's what you want, guiding the kids, is people that are living that.
Yeah, and I think people underestimate the value of a post-secondary education, because when I worked up at SFU with CCO, I'd meet with a lot of the young men on campus, and there, when we would talk about bringing them into faith studies, getting to know their faith better, a huge number of answers that I got back were, I did the Catholic thing. And what are they referring to? Either meant just going through the prep program, or they meant going to a Catholic high school. And when it really got in, and not all of them said no to it, some of them did end up coming. We were able to get them to come out to the study. And without fail, every single one of them said, I didn't realize how much more there was to my faith. And that is not to knock the school that taught them originally, because whether or not, take that out of the equation, whether it was a good education in their younger years or not, they're given building blocks. And those building blocks, when you're younger, you don't quite know what to do with them, how to arrange them, and we're talking not just faith building blocks or religious building blocks, but all aspects of life. And the problem is you get into a secular university, and they do challenge you on every building block that you've ever accumulated in your life, and they go, not that one, this might be the central core of what your family's been trying to do all your life, and they take that and they go, that doesn't make any sense in this world, right? Because they're approaching it from a point of view, a materialistic point of view, that right from the very beginning says there's no spiritual world, so there's no God, there's no your spirit, there's no soul, and right then and there they throw out any kind of meaning that God has been trying to give you from the beginning of your life, right? So this is the importance. And 16 and up, those are your years when you are putting everything together. You're reasoning. You're starting to bring order to all of those blocks that you've been given growing up.
Isn't that
such an
amazing?
important time. And that is the time when most people walk away from their faith, is that university age.
Yeah.
And they can't, put together, like Archbishop Miller said in the last one, was faith and reason.
Yeah.
And that's the integration that we bring about in a Christian education, is it's fully integrated.
Mm-hmm.
You are seeing through theological eyes.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that God is in every part and has been ordering, that's the logic part, has been ordering the world for a purpose. And for you to really know the world, for you to really know science and all these different things, you have to understand why God created it and what the purpose was for.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that explicitly secular university can never do. So you, in fact, are limiting your knowledge about your particular field of study to just totally wipe out the theological aspect of it.
Right.
And that's what we want to give them at CPC, is that theological lens of lens is a bad word because it's really to be lived. Mm-hmm. You don't just want to think about it and see it that way. You want to live it that way.
Yeah. Isn't that something? Because in our kids, when they do end up in the public universities, secular, whatever you want to call it, it is where the wheels fall off.
Yeah,
it is where, even if you've had a great foundation, it is where I drifted from my faith as well during those years, and
mine was around grade 10, 11. I had a little bit younger, but it is in those years, 16 and that.
I'm grateful to my parents were always steadfast in their faith, and they lived their life as one to be emulated for sure. And the school, having to be around it and to be, putting my kids in Catholic school again, and then you're around the faith more, and you're seeing how other people are living, and then delving into building a new Catholic school because you believe in it, has really helped me to revert back to my faith, thankfully as well, because you're just seeing how faith today is just tossed to the side for everything. And it is the destruction of the family when faith is gone.
Absolutely.
And then when the family falls apart, society falls apart as well, which is, I think we're in the middle of that right now.
Yeah.
And it's sad. It's giving us opportunities, though, to actually bring people back.
Yes. God works all things for good, right?
Yeah.
And he has that plan.
Yeah. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that in our humble little school, in our humble little beginnings. There's going to be challenges. Like, now all of a sudden we're going to go from this humble beginning to all of a sudden we're the elitist school.
Right.
And really? Now we got to fight that?
Yep.
And we have that mandate that we're not going to turn any kids away for financial reasons. We want to make sure that we end up with enough money to make sure that it's open for families of all different levels of financial means. We want to make sure that our school is welcoming to all families when it comes to that, because we believe everybody, they need that foundation. They need that.
And what a glorious, I think, sort of opportunity for your students to see all of this coming together. And for you, as you said, this has been such a witness in your life. And I think when I think about this, I think about, again, the virtues, and I think about the way it habituates us and it builds us, and we become more integrated in our lives because of it. And you look at just this experience of, well, there's a virtue for it. It's called munificence, and that is knowing what to do with large amounts of money and like this huge task that is for this great purpose, and that is for God. That is good, to basically train these children in holiness, and that's a huge thing. And what it's done for you is be able to see all the parts of where maybe you're challenged with, hey, just compromise here, just compromise there, and keeping and maintaining that sort of vision all the way through to the orientation of the chapel in your school, which is just in itself will speak so loudly, but you could have done otherwise and compromised on that. And so one, that affects you personally with every choice and every decision that's made on the foundation, on the board level. And that will affect every decision that children make in their lives as they see these things. And that is the value and the risk of education, right? Like that it's so integrated, and the witness that these students will see will bring that out into the rest of their lives. And that's what we want. We want to see that what's being lived in the college atmosphere or community, or the high school community
Yep.
is not something that is different from the rest of their experience of life. And I don't mean that you're not going to meet, people who are non-Christian or non-Catholic,
Yeah.
but when you do see what life is built around, and that is the Holy Mass and the liturgical calendar, and preparing ourselves for lives, you have to see that in how a school is built. You have to see that in how the subjects are taught there, or else you're seeing something that is separate and different.
Yeah. Exciting. And talking about the Mass, we have this massive chapel that we're putting in our school as well, which is great. Massive as in it's probably the largest in the Lower Mainland in the Catholic schools. So over 100,
That's awesome.
100, 110, I think, will fit in there. Small weddings we'll be able to have in there because
you were when we went around the campus there, you were telling me about that, and I think that's a brilliant and a beautiful idea.
Yeah.
And I want to steal it too. I want to. I do want our chapel when we build it to be central to the school and beautiful, because I mean we're a little step closer towards marriages.
Yes,
We often
exactly.
see and college, and that is often, especially Bible colleges or that kind of thing, have been seen as bridal colleges. And you often, I mean, there is a correlation between people's first experience at a university, college, as a young adult, and if it's involved in with their faith community there, they often carry that faith on throughout the entire university experience and then on into the rest of life. Yeah. I'm not so sure that it doesn't have something to do with meeting a girl, and, who shares your same goals in life. Yeah. But I think that'd be great, to have them be able to come back to their college or their high school and be able to be married there and then have a celebration there too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's a wonderful thing. I mean, our facility is designed and built to be a massive community benefit, to host events. I mean, we only use the school during the day, during the week. That's pretty much it.
Right.
And then there's
so much
weekends,
opportunity.
summers, evenings. Like there's so many opportunities to have things.
Theater there as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, theater's there. Won't be finished right away.
Right,
the building's built, so.
But that'll be fantastic.
Won't be
performances in the evenings and that too. Yeah.
We too. We got to raise a little bit more money to get that finished, but. The nice part is because the building's there, and we're going to have a few hundred kids going to school there, and a few hundred parents that'll be coming around going, when's that going to get done?
That's right.
You
can help along with that.
Exactly. Well, we're still in the middle of a capital campaign to get that done.
That's right.
So that'll be it'll be great. We're looking forward to having our first, not just classes starting there, but next year we'll be able to have an open house there.
Awesome.
And to have families come in and actually see the facility and see what we've put together there. It's
that's exciting.
Yeah,
very exciting to see it
really
come to fruition.
I already know the families that are going to be starting there in September. They're going to be excited. They're going to be like, "Wow, this is amazing!" But to have people that have no idea about the school come in and visit it in an open house, I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
Well, because it has the opportunity to touch so many more different people in the community as well, and not just the people that know about it, or maybe or even
There'll be a lot of tours going on. I'm doing a lot of tours now every week, bringing new people through the campus to see it, and now it's really showing, like how people can. You don't have to be a builder to kind of be able to vision, to have the vision of what it's going to look like. Now it's really coming together. So.
Well, and I think the things too, you'll inspire other institutions to follow a somewhat similar approach to it. Hopefully. I know already in our conversations together, you've given me some inspiration to maybe view how we're going to do things with the college as we are entering, or we are in a fundraising mode as well.
Yep.
But to look at that different, and to bring all the right people into place who have the skills, who have the dream, the vision, and the ability to make this happen, and to be thinking about it creatively.
We did some creative financing. Well, we stole it from some of the other private schools where
borrowed, right?
Yeah, borrowed it. Yeah, we observed it and said, hey, that's a good idea. Why don't we do that? And we have an enrollment deposit right now, and what it is, it's a refundable enrollment deposit. So families will put up $25,000 in equity. and we hold it while their son or daughter goes through school, and then they get it back at the end when it's done. And what that does is it just gives us a bunch of equity to work with while the and that helped us get.
I'm taking notes
started.
here. Hold on.
Yeah, for sure. And other schools have done that successfully in the past, and it helped us get our seed money to get going right away. We had almost 100 families come up with it really, really quick right out of the gate. So that gave us, a couple $1 million to work with just to get things going. In the beginning, that's the toughest part. Right now, the construction is the easy part.
Right.
It's starting at, taking those first steps right out of the gate. That's the hard part. And it's tough. We get a lot more. It's a great idea. You get a lot more pushback than you think from people that you think would be your allies.
Right.
You're like, really? I thought you'd be on board with this. And the further you get down the road, the more support you start getting.
Yeah.
Now we're getting even more, more support, even if it's just verbal. It's like, hey, congratulations, great job. We needed the school, that type of thing.
Yeah.
We're hearing that as opposed to, why do you think we need a school?
Yes.
That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We already have a school in Surrey. We only have 4 of them in Vancouver, and with less student population there, and we only have 1 out here.
Isn't that amazing how God raises up somebody like yourself who has, your own experiences that sparked this kind of approach, but has given it to you in such a clear way that it drives you forward, and you see past all of those maybe obstacles that are in the way, and that they're not death blowing sort of obstacles, right? Like that maybe I shouldn't do this, but they may make you think about it like, oh gee, maybe that's something I hadn't thought of, but it's a clear enough vision that God has given you. That it's come, it's seen you through. Yeah,
it has. I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that I was, there's been many a times where I've woke up in the middle of the night going, what am I doing? Why did I do this? Why did I start this? But you keep going. It usually takes, one token and sign of appreciation from somebody, and you're like, okay, we'll keep going. And there is a bigger picture. There's a reason why we're going through all of this. So
that's right.
And it's a day-to-day challenge, but it's something there's so much meaning and purpose that comes out of it. When you see, we had one of our graduates this year at our open house that was talking to the people attending the open houses. So it was potential students and families already. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about the great experience that he's had with the school, and how it's been such a wonderful experience. And he listed a whole bunch of things, and then he had said, but the one thing that stands out most, he goes, is I've got a chance to explore my faith, and I've become closer to Christ, and I'm even looking to get baptized in the spring because he came as a non-Catholic.
Wow.
And it was like, there it is.
Yeah.
Right there. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
And, so to hear that was huge.
Absolutely.
And I'll ask you this,
sure,
Scott. Do you have, in your experience, you've been there since 2017?
2017, yeah.
At CPC specifically, is there something or someone or an experience that you've had with a student that maybe stands out that you think, you know what, I saw this transformation, or I saw that person's life turn around, or
well,
I had an opportunity to guide somebody, or
the couple of examples that I'll give, they're short, and they're not people that I knew incredibly well or knew that the transformation was there. I'll tell you, like, we don't get people have extreme stories and then come to faith, and that often what you see is young people, 17 years old. I'm sure you encounter them from time to time, 17, 18-year-old, and they come in and they're, a little cocky, little, sort of believe they know everything. This is your typical sort of, and I don't want to be insulting, but immature young person come in. And by the time, those 4 years go past, or even sometimes it's after a year transformation, you can see the difference in the choices they make. This is why I do what I do, because I love to see these young people come to maturity in their faith, but also in their life, and knowing the direction that they're going is different, in that even inside of them, it's different from the path that they might have chosen. Whether they're going to the same career or whatever, there is something different about them, and it is inspiring. And there's maybe not even one thing that you can put your finger on within it to say that's a different person, But there are two examples that I can think of, and one was a girl who had already graduated, and how I know this is I got to chat with her. One of the first years I was there, we did a video for alumni who had been at the college. So it was a promotional video for the college to kind of talk about whose lives have been changed. And she said that she was going to Trinity Western, didn't even know that Catholic Pacific College was there. She was Catholic by birth, and from her words, nominally Catholic, not really that involved. And she had friends who were taking courses over at CPC and said, "Hey, you should take this course." And when she got over there, and then her friends were going to Mass, invited her to come. She didn't even know there was Mass on campus or anything like that. And her life was totally transformed by it. Wow. And so now she's in CISVA. She's a teacher within the Catholic Archdiocese of Vancouver, affecting other young people who are there. She's married. She's got a family, and she's living her faith. You can't ask for anything better than that. Another young man who came out of a Catholic high school, and his words were, "I never thought that theology could change somebody's life, but it did for me." Wow. And so just, maybe not taking life too seriously, scoffing at, people who practice their faith and all that kind of thing. And then this young man went on to do theology at Oxford, and that it really does change lives. And I think because we typically think of theology as a subject, but theology is in the word. Typically we say the study of things divine, or the study of God. Theo being God, logia being the study of. But that word logia, where we get the word logos for the word of God, is really this idea of order, and it's really ordering things not according to how we are seeing the world, but how God sees the world. And then we take on that divine perspective and order our lives towards Him. That's what we want our students to walk away with. We want them to see every subject that they learn not as a distinct subject in itself, but as something that's in the pattern of God's providence, in His world. And so to see through those theological eyes. So you can really say theology changed his life, because we take it and we go, how's a theology class gonna, change your? It must be a pretty powerful theology class. Yeah, but it certainly was, because it's not what we think, right?
That is fascinating. That is so awesome. And the getting back to the humble campus, you're getting the best of both worlds at Trinity right now with it. It can be seen as a massive positive. Because the Trinity campus is pretty impressive. It's a beautiful campus there, a beautiful setting. And we've got the humble side over here.
The familial setting, really is what it becomes.
You're going back and forth between the two campuses every day. And
it is actually a fear, to be honest with you, like a fear, and I say that with, a fear. It's not really a huge fear, but that if we build something new, or when we build something new, that it loses that familial sort of feeling. And really, I think we can say that it's not those walls, or the steps every 5 feet that, from the years of additions and stuff like that. It's not that makes it familial, but the people. It really is the people. It is. And who gather together around the Eucharist, and then go out and study and go to go-karting or whatever it is that they're doing, for events and that kind of thing. That they're really getting a great dose of that family aspect of our faith, that community aspect of our faith, which is so important, that lived experience. And I would say just that, while I say seeing that transition between the student is something that we wake up in the morning for, right? Is that's what drives us to get out of bed, is to see that transition in that student's life. But it's to start Catholic families. We want to see them, either populate the religious life or start Catholic families knowing what they're doing, knowing that the most important thing is to educate their family in the faith. and to build those little domestic churches that reinforce what you're doing. You know, like the education at the younger, where they can see not just what the staff and students are doing at the high school or the elementary school. They go home to families who know what they're being taught, you know, and live that out in their lives. I mean, what a robust economy of salvation that, using that word out of context, but just an economy going on there for the student and the effect that it'll have on their lives. We need this. We actually need this.
We totally need this. It is a way of life that no matter what life throws at you, then you've got the tools to get through it. And it's huge. Father Augustine was on one of our earlier podcasts, and he talked about at Star of the Sea how in the last 2 years they've baptized 40 kids that were already in Star of the Sea. So he came. Wow. And he's like, so let me look at the roster here of all the. He's we've got all these Catholic families. He goes, there's a bunch that aren't baptized in here. What's going on here? Wow. And he went out. He reached out to every one of these parents. And then some of them that weren't Catholic still got baptized, and now there's I think 25 parents that are getting baptized. Wow! So look at that
one action by this one priest who just steps in there and goes outside of the ordinary. You know, like what he's required to do. He just goes in there and he goes.
He's like, "You're in a Catholic school. Why are you here?" He goes, "You need to be baptized." Awesome. You know, and he's led this, and we got kids and parents that have been crying during the ceremonies, you know, that they're so happy and overwhelmed. And that's, like you said, that's one guy. But that is the school helping to build the church. Yeah. Whereas quite often we've seen it as that these churches, they're helping to build the schools. Yeah. And they become a drain on the church. And it's like, well, wait a minute. That means we're not doing something right. Yeah. Yeah. Because these schools are not
an end in themselves. Yeah. They're meant for a greater purpose, and too often they become an end in themselves, and we just got to keep the school going, and that means we need to, you know, make all of these adjustments just to keep it going, rather than looking at it and saying, how do we help the church grow, and
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Scott, it was fantastic chat.
As always, it was wonderful to meet with you again. Yeah. The only thing, we should get a cup of coffee later or next time. And
yeah, exactly. We'll do that, and we'll definitely have you back too, because we want to hear more about what's going on. And
and I love being a part of this. Just so you know, I really appreciate that you're doing this, and I know you're talking about Catholic matters, and that Catholic education matters, and that it really does matter. And I think that's an important thing for us to be able to see is, what does that matter to me in my life? So it's not just staying up in that head world, you know, like that, that we see that I need to do this, and I need this forming my life, and that. That's fantastic. So it's awesome. I'm so happy to be part of this. Yeah.
Thank you. And I also have to remind everybody that have joined us that we're on YouTube, and not quite yet on Rumble, but also you can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, and there's a few other ones that are out there as well. So you can look for us not just on YouTube. So thank you all for joining us, and be sure to join us again for our next episode. All right. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Catholic Education Matters. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the podcast on your favorite listening platform, rate it, and also leave a review. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends and family to help spread the word about the impact of Catholic education. Be sure to listen again.